Okay, so we start with part 2 of the lab assignment. What we are going to do is we are going to move through the lab document and modify certain things according to what the assignment is instructing us to do. So we have a basic design that we are going to work with. What we are going to do is to move through the assignment instructions and implement them one after the other so that we don't miss anything. Okay, so um, I'll move on to the next page, which is basically the design. Um, the question says we should name all controls following the naming standard taught during class meetings. So this should be something that is in mind. So when we are naming the controls, we have to make sure that we use the naming standard that was taught in class. So we set the property of the form. We have done that. We set the appropriate property to cause the form to start up centered in the display monitor. We have done also that. So the next thing is the instructions related to the customer information group box, which is this particular group box. So the customer information group box, we are going to implement the instructions required for this group box. So it says we should add a group box control as shown. Set the appropriate property so that the group box displays the words customer information as shown in the figure. So we have done that. We have done that too. So it is showing customer information over here. The next thing is we should add 3 label controls as shown for use as prompts to display the words customer name, address, and city, state, and then zip. So according to that instruction 2, we have also done that. These 3 labels. So these 3 labels have been also added. Add text box controls to enable the application user to enter the customer name, address, city. Give each box an appropriate name. So this is what we have not done so far. So this is what we are going to implement now. We are going to give each text box an appropriate name. So I'll go back to our design, come to this text box, go to the properties of the text box, scroll down, and I'll see name here under the design part. So it says text box 1, so I'll change it to, so mind you, the question says we should use the name or use a name according to the standard taught in class. So the standard taught in class was to use its description. So the description for that text box is customer name. So this particular text box is customer name text box. So I have customer name text box. Press enter. Okay, so we are done with that text box. We are moving on to the next text box. Change it, the name to the description is address. So I come to the beginning, change it to address text box. Go to the third one. This one is the first one, so this one is the city text box. So I'll change this one to city text box. The second one is the state. Change the name to the state text box. And I'll change the last one to the zip. So the zip is a masked text box, so it becomes zip masked text box. So the third one is the zip, so it is zip masked text box. Okay, so I can now save it. We are done with that instruction. So we have given each text box an appropriate name. We are moving on to, it says add a masked text box control so the application user can enter the zip code. So this is the masked box control, which is this one. We have already added it. It says we should give the masked text box an appropriate name. You have also given it an appropriate name, which was what? Zip masked text box. The next question says set the appropriate property so for the master's box control so that the control displays a 9-digit zip code mask. So what property is that? So we come to the master's box. You see the arrow over here, you click on it and go to set mask. So you see that there's a description here and one of it is zip code. So I'll select this one and click OK. So that instruction is also done. So I've set the appropriate property for the master's box to show the 9-digit zip code mask. The next instruction is add a label that displays the words vehicle information and 2 read-only text box controls as shown. These text box controls will display output as described later in this document. Give each text box an appropriate name. So a label that shows vehicle info and 2 read-only, and mind you, 2 read-only text box controls, vehicle info. So when I come, I see the label here, vehicle info, and these are the 2 text box controls. So I click on this one. It says it should be read only. So I'll come to the properties and change read only from false to true. Click on the second one, come to read only, change from false to true. So there is the label called vehicle info, 2 read only text box. I've already done that. These text box controls will display output as described later in there. Give each text box an appropriate name. So I'm going to give each text box an appropriate name. So I'll come to this, scroll down, change the name to, its description is vehicle info. So vehicle info text box. I give the name for the second text box to, I'll make it display text box. So I have an appropriate name given to the 2 of them. Okay, so the next instruction, it says set the appropriate property so that each text box can only be used to display output. The application user cannot type into either text box. That is the read only that we did. So it is referring to the read only that we did right now. Set the appropriate property so that the tab key does not tab to either of these text box. So when we press tab, it should not tab to either of these text box. Now let me show you what it is trying to say. Let me run the program. Okay, so this is the program. Now if I press on the tab key on my keyboard, you see that it moved from this one to here. I press another tab, it moves here. Press on tab, it came here. Press on tab, it came here. Press on tab to this side, to this side, and to this side. Now the question says no matter how many times I press the tab key, it shouldn't come to this text box and this text box because they are only read only. When I press tab again, it comes to this one. So we have to make sure that when I press on tab, it doesn't tab to this particular text boxes. So I'll close the program again, come to this text box, and its appropriate property is what we call the tab stop. So I'll change the tab stop from true to false. I'll come to this one, change the tab stop from true to false. So let's run it again and see if it takes effect. So I press on tab, it came here, tab, 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 it came here, here, there, went back to this part again. So you see that no matter how many times I press on the tab key, it never comes to these 2. So that property is also set. Okay, let's move on to the next instruction. The next instruction says set the appropriate property of the second text box so that it can display multiple lines of output, which is a multi-line, which has already been done. So we change this one from a single line to a multi-line by clicking this part and selecting multi-line. So we have done that too. The question says we should add a checkbox control as shown. The control should be checked when the project initially starts. So we are to add a checkbox control which has already been done, but the question says that the control should be checked when the project initially starts. So this is the checkbox, visible, invisible. When I run the program, you see that it is not checked when the program starts. So what do we do to it? It says we should make sure that it is checked when the program starts. So I'll select that one. First of all, I'll change the name to visible, invisible, visible, invisible checkbox. And I'll change that property. That property is checked. So the checked property, I change the checked property to true. So this will make sure that when the program starts, this particular checkbox is checked. So let me run the program again. And you see that when I ran the program now, it was checked when the program started. Okay. So we move on to the next instruction. So come to the next instruction. The next instruction is related to the vehicle type group box. So it says we should add the group box control as shown inside of the customer information group box, which has already been done with the vehicle type group box. Question says you set appropriate properties so that the group box displays the words vehicle type. So when I come, you see that it is showing the appropriate. Sorry, I spelled vehicle wrongly, so let me select it again and change the name of vehicle. Sorry, the text of vehicle. So vehicle is spelled I. Save it back again. Okay, so that is also done. The question says you should add 3 radio button controls in this group box and set the appropriate property to display the words auto, track, and commercial, which has also been done. Move on to the next instruction. The auto radio button control should be checked as default on form startup. So just like we did for the checkbox, the radio button, the auto radio button should also be checked when the program starts. So I'll go to the auto radio button, change the name to auto radio button. So there, go back to the property checked and make it true. So when I run the program, both the auto and then the visible invisible is checked when the program starts. Okay, so the next thing that I'll do, let's go to the instruction. The instruction says selecting one of these radio button controls should cause 2 things to happen. Display information about the selected vehicle type in the vehicle info text box. Display a picture of the selected vehicle in the picture text box. But I'll hold on to this one for now because we apply this with code. I'll make sure that we do everything related to code separately. So these two will be reserved for now. We do everything later. Okay, so We are moving on to the color group box. So it says we should add the group box control and set the appropriate property so that the group box displays the word select color. Now, before I go there, let's do these things so that we don't forget somewhere along the line. This one is the name for the auto radio button was changed to auto radio button. Let me change the track 2. So I'll change the track 2 to track radio button. Change the one for commercial to commercial radio button. Okay, let's change these two. So this one is gray radio button. Change this one to yellow radio button. Green radio button, and then blue radio button. Let's change the one for the buttons themselves. So this one is display. And this one is reset. This one is print. And this one is exit. Okay, so we move on to the next instruction. So the next instruction says you should add the group box control and set the appropriate property to display the word select color, which has been done. Select color has been done here. Add 4 radio button controls, set the appropriate property so that on startup the gray radio button is the default. So we have to make sure that the gray radio button is the default, and we should give each radio button an appropriate name, which has been done. So the gray radio button as the default. So I'll select the gray, go to the checked property and change it to true. Okay. So go to the next instruction. For the buttons, you say we should add 4 button controls, give each button appropriate name. We have done that. Set the appropriate property so that the button control display the text with hotkeys. So we have done the text, but we didn't do the hotkeys. You select the hotkeys to use. So we are selecting the hotkeys to use. So we did the names to display this, to show display, reset, print, and exit. Now let me run the program so that I explain the hotkeys. Now you see that the buttons are here. When I press Alt, sometimes when you press Alt, it gives you options on which key to combine with the Alt key to activate that particular button. It happens in some programs when they are designing it. So when you press on the Alt key, you see that there is, okay, so let me use this Word document as an example. Let me enable editing. So you see that when I press Alt, these keys are showing: F, H, N, G, P, S, M. They are showing, trying to tell you that these are hotkeys that you can use with the Alt key if you want to open this particular menu. So that is what we refer to as hotkeys. Okay, so let's look at how to implement the hotkeys. So we click on the button and look at the text part. So what we do is we decide which key that we want as our hotkey. So if it is D that we want as our hotkey, we bring it before the letter D and add the ampersand, and it will select D as the hotkey. See that now there is an underline beneath it. So if I come to this one, because I want to use R as the hotkey, I put the ampersand before the R. Press enter. For this one, I want to use X as the hotkey. So I won't put it before the E. I'll rather put it between the E and then the X. That is before the X. So I'll put an ampersand before the X. Press enter. And then the print, because I want to use T as the hotkey, I'll put it before T and insert the ampersand. So if I run it now, you see that it's not showing, but the moment I press the Alt key, the hotkeys are underlined. So that is what we call the hotkeys. Okay, so we are done with that instruction too. So the next one is add 3 picture box controls and name each control appropriately. We have added the 3 picture boxes, but we didn't name them. So let's go back to the picture boxes and name them. So I have this one. I'll scroll to the name. This one is the auto picture box. So auto picture box. This one is the track. So this one is the track picture box. And then the middle one is the commercial picture box. So I've named them appropriately, and because I've named them, I can now place them on top of each other, on top of one another. Okay, so I'm done with that. Says you should set the appropriate properties necessary to display the appropriate graphic image in each picture text box control. Set the appropriate properties so that each graphical image displays in and fills the picture box control to a size approximately the size as that shown in the figure below. So that is when we did we clicked here and changed the size mode to the stretch mode. So we have done that too. Okay, so you say finish the design by drag and dropping the picture boxes on top of one another, and then we have done that too. So the next part, it says other form design requirements. It says set the appropriate property to map the keyboard enter key to the display button. What it means that when you what it means is that when we press the enter key, it should activate the display button. When you press the escape key, it should activate the reset button. Okay, so we do both of them, the enter key and then the escape key. So I'll minimize it. Now I'll click on the forms itself, So I'll scroll down to the accept button. So the accept button is the enter key. So what I'm trying to do is, when I click on the enter key, which is the accept button, it should activate the display button. So I'll change this one to display button. So anytime I press the enter, it is the display button that will be activated. The cancel button is the escape button. So I'll change that one to the reset button as indicated by the question. So the enter key has been mapped to the display button. The escape key has also been mapped to the reset button. So that is also done. Go to the next instruction. So the next instruction also says that we should add a tooltip component control to the form. Add the following tooltips for the 4-button controls. So the tooltip 2, I'll demonstrate it. So these are the messages that we should add to those buttons. So the display button control will display message, congratulations message. This will show this one will also show this. So let's move on to, so I'll come back to my toolbox since we want the tooltip. So I'll scroll and then drag the tooltip onto my forms. So I have the tooltip onto my forms. What I'll do is I'll click on the display button, scroll. Right now I have a tooltip over here. So what I'll do is I'll add the text. What was the text? Display congratulations message. So I can copy this, come here, and then paste. So I'll save. Let's try it and see. So you see that when I place my mouse on it, that message is showing. But because we have not done the same for the reset button, nothing is showing. We have not done the same for exit. We have not done the same for print. So because we have added a tooltip for the display button, that message shows when we put our mouse on the display button. So we add the rest as well. So I come to the reset, scroll down. So the tooltip is applied once, then we can use it as many times as we want. So the tooltip for the reset button is also reset the form, and then the print button is print the form. So this is reset the form, and then for print is print the form. Change this to print. So let's run it again. Put it on this. Okay, the message shows. The message shows. Okay. So the next thing that I'll do, move on to the next instruction. Okay, so the exit button also has a tooltip, which is exit the application. So let me come back to the exit button, scroll down to the tooltip, and then add exit the application. So I can now run it. So I have display, reset, print, and then exit. So they are all done. Move on to the next instruction. The next instruction says we should set tab order as appropriate. The application should not tab to the output text box controls. Controls must be aligned and centered properly. Proper amount of gray space around controls and no misspellings. So you should make sure that there are no misspellings. You should make sure that they are properly aligned, and we should also make sure that the tab order is appropriate. So what is the tab order? Let's make sure that the tab order is appropriate. Let me run and show you if the tab order is appropriate now. So you see it is on this. When I press on tab, it comes here. Press on tab here. So the first three, it seems okay. Press on this, comes here, okay. Press on that, comes here. It comes here. And then it moves there too. I can use the down arrow to control this one. And then it comes here, comes here, comes there, comes here, comes here. So it seems the order is right. If you want to confirm, or if you want to make sure that the order stays in that same order, then you can set the order yourself. So I click on the text box, and I can change the tab index. So make sure this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then 17. So let's run it again. Press on tab, moves here, there, moves here, moves here. Because these 3 have been grouped under this, that's why it is moving to this side but not coming down here and down there. So whilst it is here, you can press the down key to move in between or to move through the options. So if I press tab again, it won't come here but rather come to the side. So I press on this, and then it comes here, comes here, comes here, comes there, and comes here, and then it goes back here too. So the tab has also been implemented. The tab order has also been implemented. So I can close it now. Okay, so the next part of the lab is the coding requirements. So I'll hold on to the coding requirements for now, and then we do that in part 3.